Welcome to class today. Going to start going over the rewind, and then today we're jumping into kind of the last new thing that we're going to learn this school year. So it's kind of the meat and potatoes of Skill 23. So before we get to Skill 23, I want to go over the rewind. The rewind was all just kind of a quick refresher on how we solve systems of equations, okay? The first problem here is a pretty straightforward one. It's two equations that are both written in y equals. So I would solve this problem using substitution, right? We're basically going to take one equation that's equal to y, and we're going to put it in down here where y is in the other equation so we can solve for x, right? When we do that and kind of solve it through, we find that x is equal to -1. But remember, what we're looking for is actually where two lines cross. So the answer here isn't just -1. We need an x comma y. We need a coordinate point. Okay, we found that the x is -1. Okay, and then in order to find y, we have to take that value and plug it in. Okay, it doesn't matter which equation from the ones that we had to start with. This one to me is clearly easier. So we're going to do that one, y equals -8 times x. Instead of x, we're going to use our x value, which is -1. -8 times -1 is just 8. So we know that our answer here is -1. The other one here is a little trickier. We could solve the first one for y. That looks like some pretty easy math and do substitution that way. But this one actually looks pretty easy to solve using elimination. So I would try that other solving strategy on this one here. If we multiply the top equation times 3, what we're going to see is we get this equation here that I wrote down below, -15x minus 3, right? I had to multiply everything by 3, so that's going to become -3y, and then our 2 is going to become a 6, okay? And the reason why I picked 3 is because I'm going to get this -15 right here, right? When I combine these equations together, 15x minus 15x, those cancel out and just give me 0, which is great because now I only have one variable and it's a variable that I can solve for. Okay, so we end up with 0, which isn't anything, and we've got 6y minus 3y, we have 3y left, -12 plus 6, right? We're going to start at -12, come back up to -6. When we solve this, we get y equals 2. Again, though, we're trying to find a ordered pair, okay? And I found the y, I still have to find my x value, okay? Does not matter which of the equations that we had to start with that you plug it into. I picked the top one. When I plug in my -2 here instead of y, -2, I end up with -5x minus -2, right? That's gonna turn into a +2. And when we solve that out, we get x equals 0. So that is the point where those lines cross. Okay, so stick with me. If you guys wouldn't mind getting your boat books out, this is where the new stuff comes in. And it's not really all that new. If you understood skill 16 and if you understood skill 10, this is going to be a pretty quick application. And it's kind of just a good chance for us to practice a lot of the stuff that we've done so far this year. Okay, so on this problem, I've given you another system, but what you might notice right away is, hey, I've got an x squared, okay? So that's kind of where our quadratics come in. We spent a bunch of time during winterim especially looking at quadratic relationships with Xbox, with our jailbreak, and with the quadratic formula. And we can basically figure out where this parabola crosses this line using math that you already know how to do, okay? And that's going to be what we do here. Okay, so if I want to find where this parabola crosses this line, I'm just going to solve this system the same way I would normally. These ones are both solved for y, and so I'm just going to go ahead and set them equal to each other. Okay, we know that all this stuff equals y, so I can plug it in on the other equation where y is, and what I'm going to end up with is x squared plus x minus 2 equals, and then on the other one I've got -x plus 1. Okay. Honestly, that might be the hardest step. I'm not really sure. The rest of this is going to solve just like a lot of the math we were doing in skill 16. Okay. In order to solve this system, we need to move everything to one side. So I'm going to add 2x, or sorry, I'm just going to add. We get x squared plus 2x minus 2. And over here, we still have 1. We need to take away 1. Equals 0, which means that this is a problem we can solve with Xbox, okay? Or quadratic formula, whatever one works for you. This one, to me, I think Xbox is going to be a lot easier. If we think all the way back, remember we put a big X, the naked number at the end, my -3 goes on top. The number on the bottom, the 2, with our X. And we think through all the numbers that multiply to 3. It's a pretty short list. It's just 1 and 3. And then we just have to figure out how to make this work so our negatives match, right? -3 plus 1, not 2. +3 minus 1. That adds up to 2. That multiplies to -3. So I found my solutions here. So that means, and then remember, there's a couple extra steps. I'm going to do this a little quickly, but you might remember that what that means is I can rewrite my equation here as x plus 3, x equals 0, right? And remember, the places where this equation is equal to 0 are going to be where the numbers are that we can plug in here to make each part equal to 0. Basically, we just flip the signs, and we end up with x equals -3, and x equals +1. Okay, are we done? Is that our ordered pair, -3, comma 1? It's actually not, okay? And I'm gonna preview the graph of this, right? We actually have -3 and 1 are the two x values because we have 2 places where our line is crossing our parabola, okay? So we have 2, our answer here is going to be, and I'm sorry, I'm kind of running out of space, but I think you guys can figure it out on your own paper. Remember, our answer here is gonna be 2 ordered pairs, okay? It's going to be x comma y and another x comma y. The x values are going to be -3 and they're going to be 1. And in order to find the values that go with them, right, we just have to take those 2 numbers and plug them back into either one, okay? Again, pick the easier one. The bottom equation looks way easier. So if I plug in y equals -x plus 1, I'm just going to plug in 1. So we get -1 plus 1, that's 0. So when we plug And then if we plug in -3, -3 is 4, or sorry, -3 is 3, and then when we add 1, we get 4. So when we plug in -3, we get out 4. Okay, so basically all we've done here is we combined some of the algebra x squared type thinking that we were doing in skill 16 with our systems of equations work from all the way back in skill 10. Okay, and just a quick, I'm going to go back to that graph one more time before we move on to anything else. Okay, you can see here that we have 2 places where these lines cross. Okay, one of them is at 1, 0, the other one's at -3, 4, and we can find those points pretty much the exact same way we were in skill 10. There's just more of them because it can cross in more than one place. On the next video, we're going to do one more worked example, and then there's a little bit of independent practice for y'all. Okay.